Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Sam Dossa, and I'm live with Sukhi Wahiwala and our guest, and Jirsch. This is Inspired Business TV, and we are live with our guest. I would like to introduce Sukhi Wahiwala, Jirsch, and a mentor, and he has been leading several businesses, and we have a privilege to collaborate and start this segment called Inspired Business TV to bring phenomenal guests like Anne to this platform to help millions of people to see a better future for their business and for their personal life. Off to Sukhi.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everything is really, really well on your Wednesday morning. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, as Sam said, thankfully, we have an amazing guest today, Anne Jirsch. She's the founder of FLP, which is Future Life Progression, if anybody is aware of it. She's a New York bestseller. She is a worldwide phenomenon when it comes to actual understanding the spiritual realm and world. We're going to get straight into it in a moment. I'm just going to share with you our mission. Thank you for coming on Inspired Business TV. Our mission is to inspire 1 million people around the world, young, medium, and old. You know, people who are coming into a situation where they could be much the same as Colonel Sanders at 67, 68 years old, thinking, shall I get into business, shall I not? It's for everybody. The aim is to show the highs and the lows of all the inspiring business people that we have in our world today. Just to inspire and encourage everybody to realize that you can all do this. Every one of you can start your own business as whenever you want at whatever age, young, mid-aged, or slightly older and senior. Okay, so back to our amazing, amazing speaker today. And I'm so, so proud and humbled to have you with us today. Welcome, Anne Jirsch.
Thank you so much, and I'm really, really happy to be here. And I know about your work, and inspiring young people is everything. It is our future, and that they're not being inspired at the moment. I'm really glad you're filling that gap, because they're almost being brought up to be fearful rather than brave and go out there and do what they need to do. And it's a big subject to mine. You know, they're calling young people the snowflake generation, and I'm watching them being fed fear. And what we got to teach them is self-belief and bravery, because, you know, that they've got that in them. And it worries me a lot. So I love what you're doing. And a bit later, I'll tell you some of the ideas I've got for young people.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Sam, are you there? What I'm going to do, Anne, is I'm going to go with our first question. This particular segment is we tend to have a set 5 or 6 questions. Both myself and Sam will rotate and ask yourself with, and then towards the end we'll have a bit more free flow so that we can add a little bit more what we call a flavor of today, and also some real sort of pearls of wisdom that you can share for the next generation and our listeners as well, if that's okay.
Yeah,
so with our first question, may I ask you, in your memory of when you're sitting there with your beautiful, amazing journey that you've created already, which we'll find out a little bit more about in a moment, is there a significant memory as a child that has helped you as an adult that you can share with the viewers today on Inspired Business TV?
Oh God, where'd you start? I think a lot was seeing the women in my family work so hard, and I don't mean baking pies and, you know, sweeping up type. They worked hard in the home, and they worked hard out of it, and they didn't have a choice. You know, I think that's always inspired me. But my mother, you know, she'd be 1 o'clock in the morning ironing shirts for school the next day. She'd be up at 5 washing the floor, and she ran a garage, which was very unusual in them days for a woman to run a garage and run a. So seeing the women work so hard, but they didn't have a choice. You know, I come from a very poor background, and so we had to get up. I mean, it was also that thing of, say you could work all day, then you do a little cleaning job overnight, just anything to bring in the amount of money you need to put food on the table. We're not in survival mode anymore. And I think it left me, it doesn't sound very positive, this, but I think it's always left me with a little bit of fear that you know, you need to work hard. You know, you don't want to go back into that poverty. You don't want to be struggling and be deprived. And for me, doing well isn't about having a fancy car. It's about, you know, that you've got the money. I do like to stay in a nice hotel and eat in nice restaurants, but to me a lot of it is you can solve problems, you can have a comfortable life, you can help your family. And I know that's a great belief of yours, Sukhi. You know, that's what it's really about, and having that security that are not. So the women in the family, I mean, my dad worked really hard, that all the family did, but seeing the women work so hard, up at 5, you know, out in all weathers. My mother would have a shovel on the forecourt of the garage. She'd be shoveling snow, you know, she'd be shoveling snow at first thing in the morning. She'd be locking up at 8 at night, going round to see her elderly parents, looking after them, coming back. You know, so we all had to pitch in. And so it's survival. Yeah, I learned survival at that early age.
So you're very, very surrounded by amazing women, which is absolutely beautiful to hear at this time of our century, should I say, because it's coming up to 100 years of women's voting rights and independence. Now, you've been yourself a very strong lady, and you're suggesting the way you've just said it is that towards your elders, your parents, your mum, your dad, and your grandparents, just to see them actually wake up in the morning with the ethics of routine and discipline. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just they didn't have an option. You know, your family would go hungry if you didn't. Even when my kids were little, we had to really bust our butts to get out there and earn money. You know, just to buy it. It sounds like I was in Victorian times. I'm not that old, honest, but but just to go and buy a bag of coal. There was a coal yard up the road, and we'd go and get a bag of coal, and me and my friend would share it sometimes because we were so short of money. We both had houses to heat. I mean, it really is that survival thing that people don't understand today. I honestly think people aren't hungry enough today. They need that bit of hunger. The people that do well have that bit of fight in them, that bit of hunger, and people aren't hungry enough. And I've got that in me. And although it comes from a little bit of fear, which sounds negative, it does spur me on. And once it spurs me on, it's exciting. You know, life because you learn that you can get out there and you can do things. You've got so much opportunity today that wasn't around a long time ago.
So the second question I was going to say, if I may, with reference to how your childhood really, I would say, really formed you. What part of that is it specifically the drive or the discipline that got you woke up in the morning and let you stay focused and put your day back in? That's perfect. Great. So I'm going to continue. So in your life, Anne, which is very coveted, and I will ask you to give you a little bit of a background of your story, if you don't mind, just in the sense of business and how you've achieved where you are today. For example, what was your first business, and I suppose your life successes as quite possible. Yeah.
Oh, you ask interesting questions. I think one of the things that really shaped me was where I grew up. People didn't have a lot of money, as I said. They're very good at thinking on their feet. So I learned at an early age that you could just go out and earn money. So at the age of 11, I got a little job helping the milkman deliver the milk. Don't have milkmen anymore, but I'd help the milkman, so I'd have to be up at the crack of dawn and be grabbing bottles of milk and putting them on doorsteps. And then when I was about 12, 13, my friend's mum she learned that she could go to the warehouse. So she'd go to the warehouse, buy all these things, and then she'd sell them for a profit. So me and my friend got a pile of it off of her and just went around selling door to door. I mean, we were 13. Our parents, these days you wouldn't let your children do it. But back then we just went out and thought, and then we made money. And so I think I learned at an early age that keeping it simple. One of the things people do today is they overcomplicate everything. But earning money is actually, if you keep it simple, there was a guy in America that I read about, and he went to a conference. He wasn't an educated man, and some of the business people were quite snotty with him and looked down on him. And it turned out he was the richest man in the room, and so he stood up, gave his talk, and he wrote things on a board, and he spelt things wrong, and they were laughing. And they said, well, you happen to be the richest man in the room, which made everybody gasp. And he said, how have you done that? And he said, well, I buy things for $1 and sell them for $2, and I just keep doing that. I think that's what I learned as a kid. That's what you do. You just keep it simple. People overcomplicate everything. Keep it simple. I think that's what I learned, just to go out. So from an early age, I went out and earned money. And then we could jump on a train and go into London or Windsor or whatever. You know, we just learned, and the boys did. They'd go out and clear the drives when it's snowing, or you know, you just learn to get out there and what do people need, keeping it simple.
You know, I can truly remember those days, and they're just so amazingly put together. I think everything, we have something to learn from our past, from our present, and look forward to the learning from our future as well, which is where later we'll talk about future life progression as well. Sam, back to yourself.
Let's put the question on the screen. What failure expanded your mind?
Well, Sam, which failure would you like me to talk about? Because I've had plenty, and that's one thing I suppose that's one of the things I've learned the hard way is you're going to fail, and you just got to get up there and get back out. So which one? I mean, I think it was the lesson is not to give up. Try something different. Keep pushing forward, not to let it set you back. I mean, okay, now I've got books out and they've done really, really well. But I approached publishers donkeys years ago, and they just turned my books down flat. You know, they turned down my ideas flat. Even I suppose. I think it's learned that if learn from the failure. So what you do is you just go, okay, I've had that book turned down, or I did that gig, it didn't go very well. I remember Louise Hay said whenever she comes off stage, her immediate thought was, what could I do better? What could I have changed? So it's rather than let it get you, but we worry too much. One thing I've noticed, I've got some very powerful clients. They don't worry about failure. They just say, okay, what do we do now? Okay, what do we change? They don't. Felix Dennis, the publishing mogul, said that the biggest thing that holds people back is worrying about what other people think. He said, if you want to do well in life, you've got to be prepared to fail, and you've got to be prepared to do it publicly. And that's, when he said that, that stayed in my mind, because I thought that is the one thing that holds us back. We've all got a family member or a friend that will go, oh, what you're doing now, or that's stupid, or that's not going to work. We've all got people around us like that. And the thing is I stopped, it sounds awful, but I just stopped discussing anything I do with my family. That's the honest truth, because they come from a time when they just didn't understand these things. I stopped discussing everything with them. I mean, there was one time I was on a radio show and I didn't realize my mother listened to it, and she called me up and said, well, you didn't tell me you'd just been there and you'd done. I just didn't tell them anything because they didn't understand. And I don't need their approval. And I think that's the thing we have to get to. Stop worrying about what your brother-in-law does. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, they worry about the bloke next door, or do they worry about what their brother-in-law thinks? No, they don't even mention it to them. They don't care. And I think that's the bit, but that's it. Failure, I think it is onwards and upwards, Sukhi, as you're saying. And that's what it's all about. Move on. What do we learn from it? And fall over. I mean, I'm failing at the moment on Amazon, trying to sell stuff on Amazon. Rubbish. It costs me money every month. It's not working at all. I fail all the time. And that's the thing. So, but what I've learned to do is seek out good mentors or people that know what they're talking about and learn from them, which is why I'm going to bug you and I'm going to bug Sukhi. I'm going to be calling you two up and saying, right, this is the bit I need to know about.
Well, the funniest thing, Anne, what we were going to do is better say, so that rules us two out. But there we are. Thank you for bringing us back into the circle. You know, in this modern day, as we're walking through, I mean, I really truly understand what you're talking about with the flow of keeping moving on. You know, just keeping that flow and keeping that self-belief in yourself. Because failure is, we've all heard the adages. You know, failure is nothing but a way forward, etc. You learn a new way forward. But within failure, with this new flow of mindfulness, which we'll talk a bit later about your own programs in a moment, if that's okay. But the key question that I'd like to talk about is interpersonal skills, or what we call soft skills in this day and age, seem to be the new buzzword. So do you feel that in this day and age, or has it always been the case, do you feel that interpersonal skills, which is behavioral psychology, learning individuals' values and actually matching them properly, is of importance, or have you managed without that? Which, you know, there could also be another story there.
Do you know, I'm not actually sure what interpersonal. There's always these new buzzwords, and I presume it's in a way, talking about people skills, and you can go and study all you want. You know, it's like when they teach you to talk on stage and put your hand there and think this and stand there and pause there. If you just get up and be natural, I think that's far better than thinking, oh, I better put my hand over there right now. And it's the same with dealing with people. To me, when I teach, and I teach all over the world future life progression, and one of the things I teach is you can take all the courses under the sun. I've met people that have been 10 years studying various hypnotherapy techniques, and they're not good with people. You've got to look at the person in front of you, and you've got to focus on them. It's all about just taking interest in that person and thinking, what can I do? One of the problems we got today, especially in the self-help field, it's all about me, me, me. Look at me. I'm the guru. I'm this, I'm that. As soon as you start, you've got to make it about the people, and that's all the skills you need. So you can take all the courses you want in interpersonal, whatever that means, but I think match people up. I think if you genuinely like people, you're pretty much there. Studies have shown.
Repeat that question. Repeat that last bit again.
Studies have shown that the people that get the job are the people that the boss or whoever's hiring likes. That if they get on with you and they like you, that will take you way beyond. That will take you way beyond all the studying. I mean, obviously, it's good to study. It's keep sharpening the saw, learn. But if you get on with people and you're likable, that will take you way further in life.
Perfect. Well understood. Okay, so now, in the context of this, now, if I could just touch in a little bit on your FLP as well, the future life progression, because this is the key of unlocking human individual potential. What would the best advice you would give to a person who's looking to create change in their lives using FLP as a base? Because I'm not joking. I'm just going to be really honest with the viewers and myself here. I can't explain how honored we are to have Jirsch, the founder of FLP, with us on our first maiden interview with the business, Inspired Business TV. Now, all of this would not have happened if I could just share from my heart with one of my sisters, whose name is Marilyn Devonish. And she connected us both at one of her events where I was speaking and Anne was speaking as well. And she humbled me with the ability to spend some time with her as well in my own home. So hence we're sitting here today. But FLP, Future Life for Progression, has been, I think it's been a phenomenon across the world. So I would just like to, if I can, Anne, just hand the stage over to yourself just a little bit, just to give us some key principles of FLP, if we possibly can. And of course, I'm sure after viewers have heard, they'll want to have some way of connecting or communicating with you. And as far as I can remember, towards the end, we'll give the dates of your next event for your FLP practitioner, which I think is going to give you the last one for 2018. Already looking at that.
Yeah.
So if I could ask a key question there, Anne, what is the best advice in your strategy and structure of FLP of anybody who's looking to create inner change or any change in their life? Are there any steps that you could just maybe just share with them if it's possible?
Well, one of the things with FLP is that we are stuck in our current energy, in our current mindset. And so we go and read a book and we do a bit of therapy, but we're still stuck in that energy. And what we do is we lift you up and take you beyond the problem. And when you take somebody beyond the problem, all of a sudden everything clears and they can make the way forward. A good way to explain this is imagine things that you're good at now that you weren't good at 10 years ago, that you really struggled with 10 years ago. And imagine if I could take you back 10 years to that past you that's really struggling and get you to talk and show the person, the past you, what it's like to be good at this. You'd walk it. You'd immediately walk it. And that's what we do. We're going into the future. But we go into the future and find out where you are in 5 and 10 years' time. We speak to the future you. Where are you? What you doing? What could you do differently? What do you regret? Let's get some hindsight. Then I take you to your best future where you've made the right moves, where you've believed in yourself. And I really anchor that. And we speak to that future you in the best future and say, what do I need to know now? What do I need to be doing? What do I need to be concentrating on? And then we anchor that energy. We get you to really feel it and bring it back. And that's when the magic happens. The dramatic things happen.
Wow. Now, we've all used the words future and anchor in the past, but can I just ask you just to clarify for some of the viewers who may be quite young and not knowing what anchor actually means? Is it possible just to share that a little bit?
Okay, so an anchor that is quite universal is when somebody has had a bereavement, we tend to put a hand on their shoulder and just go, I'm sorry for your loss. It's like a universal anchor. Now, the problem with that is every time somebody touches that person there, they'll immediately start to think of the past and they'll feel grief. But you can create anchors in people. So every time you think of something wonderful, you can make a fist. This is one of my favorites. I make a fist. Whenever time I think of something wonderful, a happy time or a successful time, keep making a fist. When you need that energy, just make a fist and you immediately are in that zone. You create that within you. So it's a brilliant tool, anchoring. It's part of NLP. It's a brilliant, brilliant tool. And you can anchor all sorts of calm, you can success, anything you want is absolutely wonderful.
Right. So now, leaning on NLP a little bit, the anchor would be principally the same as a ship anchoring itself down. And it's like lifting the anchor or returning the anchor whenever we need to the anchor point. Got it. So in context, you've just covered beautifully the 7 or a few steps that you can cover through with FLP. Is there something you could help our viewers with, even while we're on live today, right now, just so they can actually see how, with an example of how you've actually had somebody move themselves forward? Is that possible?
Yeah, for people listening, how they can. Okay, well, the thing to do is, I mean, just a little snapshot. Obviously, this isn't how we normally do it, but just the good thing to do is just close your eyes and just imagine your life in 5 years' time. If you carry on progressing as you're progressing, just close your eyes and imagine you're living in the same place, still doing more or less the same work, same relationships, or just imagine in 5 years' time, and just take a moment to imagine. And what I want to ask you, obviously we do this as a much longer session, but what I want to ask you is, what do you wish you'd have done differently? What do we should have changed, if anything? And then I want you to imagine that you've made those changes. For some people, it's, I wish I'd have changed my job. I wish I'd have studied. One man said, I wish I hadn't married my wife. So that's just a little snapshot. I've got downloads online that take you through it as a longer process, but it's just to give you a little idea of how you can view the future. And then what you do is close your eyes again and just imagine you're in your most powerful future. You've made the right moves.
Yeah, that's amazing. So thank you very much for going through that. And I think we'll possibly share a link to some of your downloads in future on the same link as well. Is it possible, please, for you to just tell us a little bit about what you've actually hooked up or what you've connected in your amazing book, which is called The Future Is Yours. How have you, just talk a little bit about the book if you don't mind, because what inspired the book for a start, and then how did you move it forward into fruition, and how long did it take?
This is quite what basically happened was once I found my best future, it started to happen. Things I was seeing at 5 years were starting to happen really, really quickly. They were I saw myself with a 3-book deal. I also took one of the self-help gurus into the future, and he saw me with a 3-book deal. Now, I was totally unknown. You don't get a 3-book deal when you're Anne from Slough, living in a little office near Slough Trading Estate. That doesn't happen. I mean, Victoria Beckham could get a 3-book deal, but people like me don't. I was unknown. You know, I did some radio work and I had the odd column, but I wasn't well known. Within weeks, I had a 3-book deal. And it's almost as if by going into the future, what I do is I bring it back to our current consciousness and bring back the energy and the feeling. That's when the magic starts to happen. So I went to a wedding and a chap come up to me and said, I've heard about you, about time you wrote a book. And my first book was Instant Intuition. And I said, I'm working on one right now. And fortunately, the self-help guru took me forward and said, you've got your first book in your hand. What is it called? And I said, Instant Intuition. That's where I got the title from. And so the chap turned out to be the biggest agent in Europe and said, bring it to me. So I then panicked, phoned up the self-help guru and went, oh my God, what do I do now? I've only got the title. So he took me forward again, and we found out what each chapter was about. We download our future books. How's that? So I now work with artists, musicians. I work for 3 Hollywood directors. We go forward and download the future. We go and download our future best success. And that's the exciting part. So everything, as soon as I started tapping into the best future in 5 years, it started to happen, which suits me because I'm not a patient person. And I don't want to wait 5 years. It started to happen really quickly. So the first book, Instant Intuition, and The Future Is Yours, I wrote both of them in 6 months, and 6 months each. And the reason I wrote them quickly was because it was what I was doing all day. I work with intuition all day. I work with future life progression. By that time, I was working with it all day, every day. So, so I was just writing what I was already doing. So I already had all the material. I just want to tell you about book 3, because the publisher wanted the third book to be something different, a standalone subject. I just wanted to carry on writing about FLP, but they wanted a standalone subject. So what I started to do is go 100 and 200 years into the future to find out what we know then that we need to know now. And everything was about energy. So I was actually going into the future, finding techniques and bringing them back. And that was the third book, Cosmic Energy. And people said, oh, it's all new material. And I went, yes, because I got it from the future. And you can do that with anything. Work with engineers, whatever you do, it's going to change. My new book's about the future of business, and it begins, whatever you do, it will change. You have to be able to anticipate the future, know what the next big thing is. You don't want to be taking 20 courses and hoping one of them's the right one. You need to know what's the future in your line of work. So yeah, that's how I wrote the books, and that they worked incredibly well. May I tell you a story about
and your stories are just so fulfilling, to say the least. I mean, it's just amazing to hear somebody who can actually visualize and see the future in such a way. And you've mentioned this to me before, where you've had exactly the conversation you said. You've had some beautiful energies together, and you actually all 3, 4 of you together and actually visualize the future. And
absolutely,
absolutely. I mean, I'd love to hear your story there, but just a question on that, if I may, if you can just note your story. If the story is the answer that you're about to give anyway, but I really, really would love to hear, something special for the viewers here listening today. I mean, for example, could you give me some kind of an example of things that you'd actually visualize? Because FLP and your future visualization is, I think, unparalleled. And I'd just like to, I know I'm a business mentor, multimillionaire, etc., but there is an element of, there's too few foods in our life, isn't there? There's one which we physically eat for our physical body, but there's also our spiritual food, which we require to actually live and to beam and to flourish. And the conversation we're having right now is allowing us to understand that there is something else out there, whether it's the observer effect scientifically, or whether we think about it as being the spiritual realm. Both are correct and both are right. Would you just share something that really has happened? When we met together, you shared a beautiful story. Whether you want to share that, I don't know, but maybe other ones as well, where you've actually predicted something and it's exactly what's happened.
Oh, every day. I could keep you here for sort of 12 hours. We don't have the odd fluke. What we see happens. I mean, the house I'm living in now, I saw 3 times I've seen properties and ended up living in them. So, I saw a property where it's high up on a hill, and I knew the river was nearby. I had no idea where that was. That was my last property. And I lived there for 5 years, and I suddenly caught a flash, because after a while working with FLP, you start to just get flashes of the future. I saw my husband in this back garden, and I thought, that's not my back garden. Maybe we're moving again. The first house we looked at was that house all the time. All the time it happens. We just constantly see the future. I saw my grandchildren. I wrote about this. long time ago, and I saw two little boys that were brothers running around. Then I saw the girl, and I knew she would work with me. And the two boys came along, and they were just, oh, they're bliss. And then my little granddaughter came along, and she's going to work with me. I mean, she's just coming up to 2, so she doesn't know that yet, but she's going to be Nanny's apprentice. She's going to be my apprentice and work with me. But yeah, that was the greatest. It was so strange because it was so real when I saw them that I thought, I missed them because I'd seen them, so I missed them until they arrived. And it's just, we've had quite a few cases where people have seen their future babies. One of the practitioners, when she was pregnant, she saw her husband, and she saw her lovely. Oh yeah, we've had a few. There is a little clause: if I take you forward and you see your future husband or wife, you do have to invite me to the wedding. It's just a little clause.
I like that. And you can't have all the happiness and not have shared it. Does that make sense? Sharing is caring. Yeah. That's what I was taught when I was younger. And so just a beautiful question now, because this segment is amazingly sort of connecting, your inside your conscious and unconscious minds together. Is it possible for you to just see or give us some hints or things that connect FLP in your new book that's coming into business? Because this is about inspired business journeys, and you have been formidable in your field. I just want to share, we haven't actually covered exactly the kind of things you've actually done. I mean, you've worked with Hollywood A-listers, producers, all of the high-end people. But you've also been working with some other trainers who speak on the stages as well. I'm not sure whether you can mention their names, but if you feel, just to give us a little bit about history of I want the listeners today to actually understand the kind of person and the personality and the caliber of the person they've got in front of them. Can I just have you, just if you don't mind, just outline a few of your successes, if you don't mind?
Successes, what, of people I've worked with?
People you've worked with, books, the numbers that you've sold, how many practitioners, amazing practitioners across the planet, what it is to be a practitioner, that kind of thing?
That the practitioners have been, about 4 years ago, and especially The Future Is Yours, it came out and it become a bestseller all over the world, and I'm so grateful for that, because that's one thing I want to it's lovely to bring people up to their full potential. And the biggest thing I find when I'm looking at people, I can see so much more to them, and to bring up their potential is phenomenal. So the book sold all over the world, and I started to get invitations come here, and I love jumping on planes. I mean, but there's only so much I can do. So I suddenly thought, what do I do here? I'm being invited to a lot of places, and I do travel a lot. But I suddenly thought, what are you thinking of? Look at the amazing people that have come to train with you. And I can honestly say that the people that have come and trained with me are a different bunch to what train in other things. If you go on the average other training, they are phenomenal. They are phenomenal. They're very they're talented. They're naturally good with people. And I suddenly thought, no. This is all about bringing people up. This is all about bringing people up and sharing. It's not about me. And I had this massive shift. Up until then, it'd been me. I'm a typical Leo, and I had to go, do you know what? It's not about me. This is about other people. So I started to look at practitioners. So I put on an advanced training, then a trainer training. So now I've got 15 trainers in different parts of the world, everywhere from Egypt to South Africa to Japan. Amazing people. We're going to be going to India with Jazz, who's my right hand, Jaswinder, who's my right hand. He's just he's formidable, Jaswinder. Geez. So we're going to be going out to India together. We've got Natalie in France. So it all became about other people. So once I had that mindset, it's about bringing up other people, finding what they're best at. That's when it started to really grow. This is what it's about. So I think 10 now of the practitioners have written their own books. And I realize there's areas of expertise I don't have that they have. So I need them to develop. So say working with bringing up children, working with children. You mentioned working with children. A friend of mine, Carmen, took some of my techniques. She's in South Africa, and she regularly goes into the townships. And she said that the kids are really difficult to work with because they got no hope. They're schools, and they don't want to go to school because they say, well, what's the point? There's no jobs. She took them to find their most powerful future. And the kids afterwards were saying, well, I'm good at carving. I could make carvings. And there's that cafe that's a 2-mile walk. I can sell things. They started to come up with all these ideas. That's what I want to grow. Then we got people there that really experience working with children, either children in schools, children in difficult backgrounds, children that have been naughty, children with learning difficulties, a really wide range. I don't think that's my job. I think my job is to help them while they develop. Plus that, I've got a very checkered history at school. I didn't do very well at all. I did get thrown out. So I don't think I've got any credibility in the school system. But among the practitioners, somebody else is going to work with that. EJ is very good with bereavement. I don't think that's my job. So it's almost as if I help develop other people. And I think one thing we got unique in FLP is we back each other up. The practitioners totally back each other up. They end up really good friends. They find their own area of expertise, and we encourage them and help them. And that's when it's got exciting. It's more of a collaboration and finding people and helping them grow. And that's what's missing in a lot of organizations. And I know you find the magic in people. It's all about finding the magic, helping them to grow and become something wonderful, fulfill their potential.
That's right. You know, you said something about academics and you know, you didn't do so well. But within that, isn't there a message to say that actually it shows that whatever you're good at, whether you're academically attuned, adept or not, success is still there to be had in whichever context you want. And the beautiful part that you've just shared with reference to, if I can just synopsize a little bit, with the young children you've got in South Africa that you're working with, I mean, how amazing is it when a child can be, I've got nothing and I've got no future, to come back and say, do you know what, I can do a carving and I think I can sell those carvings. You know, within anything else, whether anybody else does say it or not, and I'm sure you're very aware of this anyway, but, you know, as an Inspired Business tribe, we would love to encourage them and thank you for such an amazing way of thinking. There are other steps I would like to ask a second, if you don't mind, with reference to how you've stuck together as a family, as a community. Do you feel that it's, you know, because of being the Leo, and in that context you just mentioned yourself, do you believe that being a person who actually sees the best in other people, which is what I think you're talking about, which is how I say with my vision, is how we, and Sam I know does exactly the same as well, how we unlock the potential in the other human person who's in front of us. There's a little statement that I say with reference to when it comes to leadership. I don't want to say it to yourself, and I want to see how have you managed to see that in other people around you. To me, leadership, if I could share, is the ignition of self-responsibility in the other person. Now, the moment they become self-responsible, I heard something when you shared that you've got individuals around the world with your practitioners who have got very specific energy about them, you know, like some deal with bereavements, etc. How did you notice this, or is that something that just evolved naturally?
FLP tends to attract amazing people, and that's where I'm blessed. It attracts people that have got something in them because they understand we can slip around in time. So I think we've attracted amazing people. But I think throughout my work, I mean, I've read cards for years. I use my intuition. I do think I can work with people and see something in themselves that they can't necessarily see themselves. Or if they see it, they don't know how to take it forward. A lot of the time, people just don't. That's why you do need a mentor, because people don't know how. I didn't know. I've had the benefit of some great mentors, and I think it's working with people, seeing that spark in them, going, no, you're good at that. No, you're people play themselves down a lot, and it's actually, if you focus on other people, you see their light.
Wow, now that's so powerful. Now in this comes another question or another challenge I think some of our viewers will have, is that they may be sitting there thinking, you know, we've got all what we call the extroverted energies who say, yes, it's me. I am the one who's going to be the next FLP trainer or practitioner. But what about the ones who genuinely, because I believe every human being has got something to offer the world. Do you agree?
Yes. Yes, I've just put that in my latest webinar, Finding Your Own Genius. I put everybody's got something they bring to the world. Everybody.
Beautiful. So in context of that, their own genius, what would you say to somebody who hasn't even found their own genius at the moment. What would you say to them to say, because we've got the most fabulous people and the most amazing characters and eligible individuals who are working within the FLP arena right now. But as you said, it attracts the best. But what if the best don't know they're there yet and they're slightly hiding behind a bit of a fear? How would they get past this and still get in touch with you?
I would say have a session with a practitioner, and they will take you to your ultimate self. They will take you that you're doing it, and they will anchor it. Go and have a look. Don't, because we're stuck in the limitations we've got around us now. Our own belief system is blocking us now. Get one of my practitioners to take you forward. So find the essence, find the fabulous you that's doing amazing things.
That's wonderful. Find the fabulous you, or find the you. So do you think, and I know your next book is on this, because I was talking to Sam about this a few days ago, and I know the book is specifically on business personalities and business people and how FLP probably integrates with that. So could you just share maybe a couple of stories about, you're interviewing business people within your new book, and your new book title was again, please?
Oh, well, I haven't got. We don't have a title. The new book is a work in progress. I haven't got a title yet. It literally is a work in progress right now.
Wonderful. Is there a hypothesis you can share so people can get very excited about finding that book when it launches in the future? It's
a part of it is about finding your genius, finding that spark in you, finding what you're fabulous at, finding your own genius. And what I've put is the genius. It's not always the cure for the bubonic plague or reinventing the wheel. It might be you find a way to help people with disability put their socks on. But whatever it is, what is it you're here to do? It's partly that. It's partly about intuition, because people at the top use their intuition way more, and that is absolutely proven. They've done a number of studies. People at the top openly talk about using their intuition. People lower down rely on facts and figures, and they get bogged down with paperwork. People at the top go for it. So it's about the intuition. It's about finding the most powerful future. And to me, is this the structure of companies is changing. So this is very much how do you work with the way business is going? Because as it is now, it's changing. It's already changing. Companies that aren't changing are already struggling. The old patriarch at the top that's failing. It's starting to really struggle. And so the actual structure of what you're building, you do need to keep reinventing yourself, how to reinvent yourself. So the book is packed with exercises and examples. I'm interviewing some incredible people.
That's amazing. And now, in accordance with those incredible people, you've even picked somebody who's useless like myself to possibly consider interviewed. I'm really humbled.
I'm going to be interviewing you very soon.
Thank you very much. Now, just a little clarity here, because I was just thinking about the whole process of business, etc., and intuition. You just said that people at the top tend to use intuition a little more, or a lot more, which is factual.
A lot more, a lot more.
How would intuition sort of carry out? Would it be something like this, a statement like saying, well, do you know what? I think we should do it that way, and let's just do it. Is it about not getting bogged down with the facts, the figures always, and maybe just trusting your inner self? Is that what you're trying to say?
When I've interviewed a whole bunch of people and asked them how it works, and basically it's usually quite a physical feeling. I'll tell you one of the things I've noticed. Intuition, we expect it to be some big dramatic things like, wow, I've got a bad vibe, this is going to be terrible. And that's not how it works. For me, it's when I keep hesitating. So I've got something in front of me. It's like when you said, and be on the show, I immediately said yes. I didn't hesitate. The first time I was invited out to Kuwait, I just got an email from somebody called Iman saying, would you come and teach in Kuwait? I said, yes. I just sent back one word. I didn't even know if Iman was a man or a woman, what the setup was. I've never been to Kuwait. Instinct. Other times I keep hesitating. And it's that, when I'm hesitating, it's there's a message there. Do you know George Soros? Whether people like him or not, he's still one of the most powerful financiers in the world. And he said he gets a pain when something isn't right. So say he's about to sign some paperwork on a deal. He actually gets a physical pain. And he always stops and examines till he finds what the issue is. Now, it's somebody that works with money and finance at that level to actually know there's a physical pain. And he's actually said, I wish I could get it down to a fine art, like if my big toe twinges, it means be careful about commodities or whatever. He said, but I haven't. But these people that, I mean, I don't work for him, but I work for some very, very high-powered people, and they always talk about intuition. They go, that doesn't feel right. Or I've got a feeling to go with this. If you look at when you're hesitating, I tell you when you do this, imagine you're going out for the evening and you say, what restaurant should we go to? And there's Luigi's up the road, always been good. And you say, I don't fancy that tonight. For some reason, I don't fancy it. And you just say, what? Where does that come from? Why? It's always been good. But you ignore that because we ignore it. You go along, there was a rowdy crowd and staff didn't cope and, it wasn't a good evening. And you leave and you say to yourself, I knew I shouldn't have gone there. How did you know? It's actually very simple. But if you stop and go, oh, I'm really pulling back here, or I'm really, really holding back, or I'm really excited by this. And clients of mine have said, I've got this situation going on where I've got a very difficult client, and it looks like it's going to go horribly wrong, but I'm just not worried. I'm just not. And that's what you listen to. It's subtle. It's no big dramatic thing. If you start listening to that, you've really cracked. That is what the big shots do. They just go, no, it feels all right. I'm going to go with it. No, I'm not worried about that.
That's a beautiful message, because we can sometimes get very heady, I'm very certain. Now, I've, in my own humble journey, have actually had a lot of what we call unconscious training when it comes to things like listening to myself. My mother, who has been very, very formidable in my life, as equally with my father, she basically just telling me, son, do not do anything unless you've got a positive heart. Now, in context of that, that's the same feeling that you get, a little kind of the butterfly or something positive in yourself. That's what we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just get that vibe. I mean, I'm very positive person, but in fact, people have called me Pollyanna. Pollyanna is an old movie where the girl thought everything was wonderful even when it wasn't. I can be a bit Pollyanna, but so if I'm getting a vibe of, I don't feel right about this, then I stop and think about it. And you have to train yourself to sort of say something's not right here, or if something keeps on your mind a lot, there's a message there somewhere, and it's really important to listen to it. It's really important to take that on board. Why does that keep popping into my mind?
Yeah. And the beautiful part of this is you can take this into a scientific approach, where you could say, let's take the science out of the equation. Let's say Henry Ford, he turns around and says, a man who believes he can or he cannot or can't is true. So, what we believe is true, and we become what we believe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think all the information's floating out there on the ether. And if you focus and listen, you will get better. One thing that another study has proven, that the more you use your intuition, the better you get at it.
Wow. Now, another question, if I can. If somebody wanted to try to understand the intuition better and actually take clear steps that they can follow through, what would you suggest they do? I mean, as you said just a moment ago, stop and just have a think about it. But let's say we've got somebody who's genuinely new at business, so they've got less of those feelings. But how could they enhance this, or how could they step themselves forward? This is probably the last question before we talk a little bit about your actual event that's happening in June, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the things I teach people I call it the psychic antennae. And you can do it now. You can just think about when something's gone really wrong. We've all had disasters and it's gone horribly wrong. And where do you feel that? As you think of it, you'll have a feeling. The mind will send you. I'll make you feel good afterwards, I promise. But for now, just notice. And for me, straight away, my stomach tightens up. My stomach clenches. It's a different thing. I mean, straight away, my shoulders are coming up. You can see. So it's actually stop and think about when things have gone wrong and feel what that feels like. And sometimes it's good to get somebody else to observe you, because they'll go, oh, look, you've just tightened up your jaw, and you don't always, it's unconscious a lot of the time. But what you do is, once you've defined how you react, anytime you get a slither, anytime I can be with a client and go, do you know, you're asking me about this and my stomach's tensing up. You've only got to have a slither of that feeling my shoulders come up, my stomach tensing, and that's my little warning. That's your alarm. So be aware when you're working with somebody and you get that feeling. So now the next part. Okay, think of a time you were so lucky, you made the deal, or you just knew something was brilliant. You know, you met great people who believed in you. Think of something that went really right. And straight away, I want to smile. Straight away, I'm opening. I can feel my shoulders widening. So that's how I process the information. So whenever I'm talking to somebody and they say, "Oh, it'd be good to come here or do this," and I feel this opening up. Boof, that's my answer. So I could meet somebody, or I could open an email right now and it will say, would you come and do some training here? And I feel the shoulders come up, stomach clenches, and go, oh, I'm a bit busy at the moment. Something's not right there. Somebody else could contact me. There's no logic to it. I don't use logic at all. I straight away, like I did with Kiwi, everything, I went, yeah, you know, we go with that. And the more you do it, the more it will work for you. It's really worth just listening to your own body's message.
Got it.
And seeing how you process the good and the bad, and that will work. I've done this with a lot of people. That is, you've got that with you. It's your own little GPS that lives within you, and you can use it whenever you want. It's brilliant. Costs you nothing.
That's a nice free tip, isn't it? A little bit of self-education. And much the same as everything else, I'm sure, the more you use it, to all our viewers here, the more you use, the more you become aware, the easier it becomes and more second nature it becomes.
Absolutely.
I actually traveled and said yes to a whole atmosphere, a whole sphere of education and training in Slovakia, only 2014. And that was done on exactly the same way. You know, the whole conversation was, one of my mentees over there said specifically, her name was Katka, she said, would you come to Slovakia to share your knowledge? And within a minute, I said, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Okay, so when? Yeah. That was it.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah. So it works. It totally works. Just using your instinct. That's how we survived. That's how our ancestors, wherever they were in the world, they survived. They called it the old man in their head. You know, the hairs on the back of their neck would go up. It's that instinct to know where the buffalo roam when the enemy's just going to attack. It's purely on instinct. When you get amongst people that live on the land a bit more, their instincts are strong.
Got it. Perfect. So now a question that I will leave you with here. First of all, wow, what an amazing discussion we've had. You know, Anne, you've been truly a blessing for us here and all of us listening, to have shared your beautiful wisdom. I still can't believe we've got the FLP founder here. So there we are. So thank you very much, Anne, as always.
Oh, thank you so much. It's lovely. I'm always happy to work with you, Sukhi. You are an inspiration, so I'm always happy to come on or talk to you.
God bless you. Thank you very much for your warm words. Sam sent me a message just a moment ago, and he said specifically, how can people now connect with yourself? When is the next event, and what will you be covering at, there is a progress to be a practitioner for FLP. How can we help individuals who are listening to this to possibly take a path or listen to their inner calling with yourself, Anne?
Well, the next training, let me look at the date, is 15, 16, 17 of June. It'll be in Maidenhead. And I'd love you. I particularly like working with people that are business minded. I gave a talk at an event a little while ago, and I just said, you're here because you're business minded. I love working with business people. So I'd love you to come and join me. Sukhi and Sam will have a link that they can send you. On the training, it's 3 days. People are buzzing by day 2 because you're working on yourself. People are working on you. You'll be wowed about what you do. We cover past, we go into the future, we look at your best possible future, dealing with clients. I actually teach some business because I think people train in things, they never learn any business. Nobody teaches them any business. They teach them a load of stuff and then they don't know what to do next. We go into the business, but there's a magic happen there. People keep asking me to teach this online, but in that training there's some magic. There's some real magic happens that you feel. People have walked in and gone, wow, what you're doing in here. You can feel it almost floating in the air. So, yeah, the next training, I'd love you to come. I'd love you guys to come. I love working with people that are business minded. Some come just because they want to learn the techniques. Some want to be practitioners, and we'll find your magic. We'll bring out that magic in you and find your path and help you be so much more.
Thank you very much, Anne. It's going to be amazing. Now, I'm just going to end with a little statement once again, if I may. Now, thank you very much for tuning into the Inspired Business TV, which is basically sharing and learning from other people's inspired business journeys. Today has been episode 1, and we've had Anne Jirsch with us, the founder and the creator of FLP. Some amazing pearls of wisdom. She has written the book, one of her favorite books, which is a hit bestseller, is The Future Is Yours. There will be more links in the base and the bottom when we make this live on Facebook, as well as on YouTube later on the inspired-business.tv website. And it'll go straight to our YouTube channel. We'd like to thank you for tuning in and taking the time to listen to this. One of the key messages that we've got to share with our next generation, our current generation, and our future generation is our mission at the Inspired Business TV is to inspire 1 million plus individuals into successful business around the world, whether that means actually making your first sale, actually even getting the belief that you can sell, like Anne was talking about today. We hope that today has been a wonderful day and you've truly enjoyed having a celebrity like Anne on our very first maiden program, for which I'd like to thank her once again. Thank you, Anne.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Sam, Dossa, and myself, Sukhi, Wahiwala, we'd like to thank you for tuning in once again. Onwards and upwards. Good night.